Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 35. You might be surprised to learn that there was a Treehouse of Horror this year, as it aired after Halloween and right before a pretty big election. And there's been a lot going on this week, so I totally understand if you're like, what the fuck are you even talking about? But yes, it was very much after Halloween. I am very late on talking about it, but I thought since I'm sort of trying to review the older Treehouse of Horror, I should actually talk about the ones that are, continue going on. But yeah, I mean, I think part of with this episode is that, it's newer Simpsons. It aired after Halloween, the election, and most of it isn't honestly that great, so it doesn't really stand out, I think, for most people, understandably. But I will give a claim for one thing, and that is the Jorge Gutierrez couch gag at the beginning is absolutely the greatest thing of this special. It was really wonderful. I've watched it a few times. I had Book of Life references. It had all these cool designs. I really liked the animation. It was really fluid. It was fun to watch. It was like absolutely the greatest thing about it. Did they do anything about the Day of the Dead or anything like that? No. Conceptually, there's like virtually no reason it's there, but it's the best thing, so I'd much rather it be there than everything else that happens within the episode, so it's fine. He also, if you stick around or just go to the end of this episode, he does sort of like illustrations based on each of the various Treehouse of Horror segments, one of which is kind of a parody of Pacific Rim, which I thought was like kind of cool because Guillermo del Toro produced, or at least was involved, I forget what he did, in Book of Life. So I thought that was kind of a nice little send-off, as well as all the illustrations he did, or as a nice little reference and nice kind of like seeing him do a Del Toro thing I thought was cool. And there's illustrations for all of the various segments at the end, and those are really great. Those are probably the two best things about the episode before you get to the segments. Now, I don't have a listing of everyone's cool Treehouse of Horror names. I apologize that I don't have that, but either way, the first one is the worst of the three. I'm not gonna mix words on that. The first segment is called The Information Rage, and it's about how everything is divided and there's so much rage and anger and political division that they have made a red monster comes out of the sea, and then a blue monster comes out of the sea, and they destroy everything. And then Bart and Lisa make a Pacific Rim mech thing, or they don't make it, but they're in it, and then they fight these guys and stuff. It is pretty tone deaf and very much trying to talk about something now, and I didn't like it at all. It wasn't interesting. It's not very horror-ish. There are certain references. They reference the gay steel mill from the John Waters episode. I was very happy about that little reference, and there's like some off jokes that I remember laughing at that I forgot immediately. And it's not just because I watched this before the election and then after. And it's honestly something I hear people talk about all the time, and there was no really clever spin on it. It's like, okay, your anger creates a monster. Okay, but like I really didn't think anything it was saying was very clever or nuanced or interesting or different or anything, and it just wasn't that good of a horror concept. It was fairly bad, or straight up bad. I would say if there's a worse segment, it would be The Information Rage. It was not very good. But I did like that it made a reference to the gay steel mill. I thought that was funny. Or just a nice reference, and I needed a laugh during a bad segment. But the middle one, The Fall of the House of Monty, was legitimately probably the best or most horror or Halloween segment of the three. It's the only one that supposedly it's based on. I keep reading it's based on a film called Winchester. I'd not really heard of that. Either way, it's I mean, that's cool. If that is true, it's cool they reference like an obscure horror movie. I think that's actually neat. But it's a cool idea of basically a guy who's making a huge house, and he's employing these people, and he says he's going to give them like a Thanksgiving dinner and give them food, and he keeps screwing them over and kills them, and they come back to haunt Monty Burns. That's a perfectly good horror story. It is not an amazing horror story or Halloween story, but it is the only thing that I would describe as like horror-ish. And I actually kind of got into that one. I was like kind of surprised at how much it, like, that to me feels like it should be a Treehouse of Horror segment. Like it's very much like classic Treehouse of Horror. You could have put that in maybe not the best years because it's not super, like, not as funny, but it's like what you want on Halloween. You want a horrific story, and that's what you get. And I thought it was a little more inspired because of that. It would fit the mold better. And I don't know if it's really referencing that movie but I'd also not heard of that movie, so maybe they did. It was a classic horror tale, and I thought that was like more in line with what you want from a Treehouse of Horror, And then lastly, you have Denim, which is a parody of Venom, and it's about a Denim who attaches himself to Homer when he's trying to court Marge. The Denim is animated in a different way. I think if you've seen 2 segments of this go viral on something, it was either the Jorge Gutierrez couch gag or something from this. I liked how the animation was different for the Denim. It was kind of weird that, like, it's supposed to be about Homer and Marge getting together, and yet they look the same. Like, they didn't try to age them down at all, like, whatsoever. They don't even, I was like, whatever, I guess. I just sort of like went with it, but it did occur to me, it's like, it's weird, like usually when they go in the past, they give them like hair and she looks different and stuff like that, but like maybe they don't do that anymore or something. I don't know. I don't keep up with the newer episodes as much, but it was fine. It's like kind of just a regular kind of this is a big movie parody thing. At least Venom's sort of horror-ish, so I'll meet them halfway that like at least the animation was a little different. And it was sort of fun, like him and the Denim talking to one another. Like they had some fun with it. I was sort of fine with this. Overall, with this Treehouse of Horror, and I don't really watch them as much anymore, and I kind of want to, but this did not really make me want to make that tradition. I've been watching more Simpsons lately, and so it's been on my mind. I thought, okay, I should check it out. I don't know if I would, like, this didn't encourage me to watch newer ones. I'm encouraged to watch the ones I've always liked. And this is not good enough, to be totally honest, to change my mind and make me go, oh, I'm going to watch another, Treehouse of Horror 36 and all the other ones. I think I would, if the people like this, maybe I will. But it also, I don't get, like, I understand The Simpsons comes on Sunday, but it's like, couldn't you just, like, aired it on Halloween, like give it some more days? Because even before we found out what the election, how that all went, I thought it was a bad, like when I watched it I was like, I feel like no one's gonna remember this by Tuesday, like it's sort of over for it, because like I actually like didn't see any posts. I was like, yeah, wasn't it supposed to come out after Halloween and stuff? And it's not so much I'm criticizing it for not being popular. When I watched it, I was like, oh, that's why, I think if you're going to do Treehouse of Horror, I really wouldn't mind if they're all like the fall of the House of Monty, to be honest. Like, I when I was a kid, I liked that about the Treehouse of Horror. I still like that. I don't need random ass movie parodies that don't make any sense. And you could say like, oh, well, the one where all the like big mascot things came to life, that's sort of like Pacific Rim, but not really, because like the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and things like that are sort of horror-ish, or at least in that kind of B-movie camp. And this just felt like, oh, I have a cool idea, or what if that, I really didn't understand it. I think it still felt like there was some life in it in the middle segment, but the rest, I don't think they fully got into it. I feel like they're just trying to like, when I talk to people about Simpsons, and I've been watching with my family and other people, almost everyone doesn't want to watch the new ones because they think the new ones try to be topical, is usually what they say, or it's not as funny, and it's like trying to say things about now stuff. And you watch the old ones, they usually aren't too often. And I do think this was sort of guilty of that in the first segment, and even with Denim, which like it does feel like, why would you, I don't know if they've done like an A24 parody or something, modern horror or something like that. I kind of just wish they would do that, especially when we're in such a pro horror time. I wish they'd have a little more fun. So I don't know if this is the worst one I've ever seen, but it's not at all one of my favorites. And other than the fall of the House of Monty and the Jorge Gutierrez involvement, I really don't see what, unless you want to see every Treehouse of Horror, there's really no reason to see this. This is not one that's going to become part of anyone's Halloween tradition. If you're watching a ton of Treehouse of Horror episodes, I'm sure it'll, it's one of the ones that could come up, and there's certain aspects that are interesting, but you could probably, cut together a good little YouTube video of, the Jorge Gutierrez, the fall of the House of Monty, and then the end cards, and wonder what it's referencing, and that would be a better experience. And maybe I'm being too harsh on Denim. I think Denim could stay, but it's really just like, it feels a little out of it with those other segments. And even though the thing is about it is the fall of the House of Monty is not cool, not necessarily like cooler with it. It's just a good horror tale, and that's what you want at Halloween. So I wish they would just consider more of that than trying to be relevant or reference Venom for some reason. So it just felt like sometimes I think it's cooler to try to be cool, and I think the best parts of this were cool, or good. I shouldn't just say cool, were good, because they were themselves. Whether it's Jorge Gutierrez's thing or the fall of the House of Monty, they were themselves, and that's what made them great. And anytime they're trying to be relevant, or Denim, I think, kind of gets hurt a little bit in that, but the real prime of this is just being yourself and being the uniqueness that Treehouse of Horror is. And I wish they'd lean more into that than, you don't need to appeal to me. I'm already here. I just want to be laughing at some horror tales, and I don't know if this overall did that, and it does feel a little bit like Treehouse of Horror has newer ones are sort of lost the plot a bit. I think you could easily get it back, but we'll see the next one. I just wasn't fully in love with what I saw here, and it didn't make me feel better about modern Simpsons or anything. It just made me go, okay, maybe I should stick to reviewing the old ones. But we'll see, and hope better for next year, and hope the world is better next year as well. So if you've seen Treehouse of Horror 35 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.